All right, we're going to get to part two of this article now. And there will be some difficult things that I read, very science-based things. And I want to show you how to go about reading them because it might not be as important as you think. And I'll show you what I mean like pretty soon. So we're right in here with they found, they're talking about the scientists, the researchers. They found that there was a reduction in activity. So there was less activity in some parts of the brain when players were tackling challenges. For instance, now here comes some scientific name here, the ventral striatum. What the heck is that? You know what? It doesn't really matter. Keep reading. And, we're not brain scientists, so I don't know if we actually need to remember the name of this, but we just need to remember what it does. It sits deep in the skull, okay, and is important in motivation. So that thing is important when in motivation. And here's the key, such as whether to try again. So just there's some part of the brain that determines when we're tackling challenges, do we want to try again? Activity here dropped off when players brushed off a failure that had been within their control. So they brushed it off. They were like, I could have done better, such as guessing the wrong key and failing that so called exam. The lower the activity in this brain region, see, they don't even mention it again. We just kind of need to know it's like this region that determines whether we're going to tackle it again. The more likely a player was to give the game another go. So low activity in this part of the brain, all right, we'll give it another try. Reduced activity in this area is not very pleasant since it's associated with getting something wrong, but it is also associated with learning. As they change their behavior, participants might begin to feel they can do better next time. So that's the big key. They can do better next time. It was kind of within their control. They didn't do as well as they could. Next time they'll do better. Remember in that game, there was another option where just there was no rhyme or reason. Players were just canceled, cancel culture. Players faced with a course cancellation, something they couldn't control, showed a drop in activity in a different part of their brains. That part is right above their eyes and is called the ventral medial prefrontal cortex. I mean, do we need to know that? No. Maybe we need to know it's above the eyes. It's a different part of the brain. It controls something different. Well, what does it control? Well, here they're going to tell you. So a lot of times when you're reading something and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what this is. Just keep reading because often if it's a well-written article, like this article is for students, not brain surgeons. So they might introduce a difficult topic, but then they'll explain it. And that explanation, that's the important part. So don't get too tripped up when reading something huge like ventral medial prefrontal cortex. What does it do? This area affects how we judge risk, control our emotions, and make decisions. Okay. And for uncontrollable setbacks, the lower the activity here, the more likely players were not to give up. So you want not a lot of activity here in the brain. It'll be more likely that players will try to keep doing this, even though it wasn't their fault. After a setback we can't control, you realize that this isn't due to your own actions and you can't correct that behavior, Banji explains. And this is where successful people put more emphasis on interpreting their emotions in a way that allows them to forge ahead. So when failures are beyond someone's control, he says, rethinking our emotional responses seem to help. So maybe when the course is canceled and just for no reason, like, oh yeah, you can't, they've taken the test and it's out of their control. The people with less activity in this part of the brain, and it doesn't matter the name of the brain, but people with less activity here, they will just show that, okay, it's out of my control. they're not going to get mad, they're not going to get sad, or they're less likely to get mad and sad, those types of emotions that might cause us to just quit, and they'll try to think of it in a different way. It's super tough, and I don't know if the older you get, the more you can control this part of your brain. But I know with me, I've found that as I've gotten older, it's been easier when I've had setbacks out of my control to realize, like, okay, they are out of my control, and I'll try again. Persevering under pressure. Many failures, from exams to athletics, occur during times of stress. That prompted Bonji and his team to repeat their experiment. This time, the scientists stressed out their participants before they played the game. Oh, that's nice. This was a physical and mental stress. Participants dipped their hands in ice cold water while a video camera recorded their faces. After this ice water bath, the group exams faced exams still kept trying over and over when they failed. But the group facing course cancellations, conditions they could not control, remember, there's no reason for it to happen, they just were out of the game, were now more likely to give up. So what does that tell us? If you're under more stress, outside stress, here they kind of manufactured it with the ice water. But in a real life situation, maybe you just broke up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, maybe your parents are divorcing, maybe, you just lost a pet, maybe you just lost a grandmother, grandfather. So that stress is going to cause your brain to act in different ways, of course. This could mean that when people are under stress, they are only motivated to forge on if they can learn from their setbacks. If failures are beyond their control, stress may make them less able to control their emotions and persevere. Bonji presented the data, or data. Some people pronounce it two different ways. I say data. Benji presented the data in October 2015 at the Society for Neuroscience annual meeting. So I guess once a year. They probably didn't meet last year, did they? But in 2015, they did. This study helps scientists understand what helps people surmount. That's one of our words, surmount. So that's another way to overcome. I think of it like as like the top of the mountain. You can get over that mountain. People surmount setbacks, says Candice Rayo. She's a psychologist at NYU, New York University in New York City. But she warns, the computer game was short, as was the ice water bath. It would be interesting to see if stress and the ability to learn from mistakes have a similar impact on sticking with longer term goals, she says. These might include staying in school until you graduate or finishing some long term projects, such as building a game. Most obstacles are not entirely under our control and not entirely out of our control, Benji observes. If people focus on the parts over which they have some control, they will be more likely to be persistent, he suspects, even in times of stress. So that last sentence is kind of the theme of this whole article. If people focus on when you have a setback and you focus on the part that you can control, you're more likely to try again. That's the whole gist of the article. The gist of the article. So I hope that helps. I mean, it was a super tough article to read through, lots of science terms, but I hope as I read through that, you understood like some parts of the article you might need to know more than other parts of the article. I mean, if you're going to school, and you're, at 13 or 12, you think, ooh, maybe I need to go for brain surgery. Maybe you want to be a brain surgeon. Well, you might want to read that over and focus on the parts that were specific to neuroscientists. But if you're just reading this article to try to get a theme, to get the main idea of it, I think you can skip over not skip over, but not focus on the hardcore science part. All right.